24 hours ago, the rapper got a big win in the Fulton County courtroom. A judge making the ruling that cell phones and other evidence collected from the rapper's home during a raid could not be used as evidence in his upcoming trial.
Hey man, stay safe world. You already know what's going on. We're going to talk about this new update in the Young Thug trial where a cell phone that was obtained by the DA's office dating back from like 2015 basically is not going to be able to be used in court as evidence against Young Thug. This is a pretty big W because this is like around the same time period that they're trying to tie him to different crimes and stuff. Let's get into it right now, but before we do, I'm gonna need y'all to like, comment, subscribe. We're gonna run up this video. Make sure y'all check out the merch link in the description, man. So let's get it.
Entry into Mr. Williams' home was unlawful, and therefore everything in that home could not be taken, should have been suppressed and returned to Mr. Williams.
The marijuana's over here, that's fine, but he didn't suppress the other stuff. We can still use it. That's not the way I interpret this particular scenario and interpret the law related to search and seizure of this particular item.
Yo, so it was ruled earlier yesterday that computers and phones seized during a July 15th search of his house in Sandy Springs, Georgia, which resulted in felony charges against the rapper Young Thug, will no longer be used in evidence. The judge basically came to this ruling after the cops raided Young Thug's home after he allegedly threatened a security guard at a mall. They found an assortment of drugs and guns, but charges were tossed after a trial court ruled the search was unconstitutional. But fast forward 2 years later, the devices seized in that raid were suppressed by written order in April of 2017 and were supposed to be returned to the rapper, but that never happened. So instead, Chief Deputy District Attorney Michael Sprinkle sent the devices to a company called Cellphone for them to be searched. And then according to Young Thug's lawyer, the prosecution had no valid search warrant to examine or extract any information from Young Thug's devices after April 2017 ruling. And then Brian Steele basically said that, and the judge actually agreed to this, but the phone and everything that was taken during that raid, the warrant only allowed people to hold on to it for a certain amount of time, and it was around 10 days. And in this case, it took them 2 years later, I guess, when they started making the investigation for this larger RICO case, for them to actually get to it. In the trial yesterday, they basically said that they had the phones, they couldn't get into it at the time, so they sent it to this company called Cellphone, who couldn't get into it either, and then eventually they were able to get into it years later because technology advances and stuff like that. Searching the devices in May 2017 violated Young Thug's possession interest in his lawfully obtained property that the prosecution had no legal right to possess. Young Thug's attorney also says the prosecution and law enforcement have refused to return the non-contraband property as the law requires. Instead, without lawful right to hold, keep, inspect, possess, or examine Mr. Williams' property, the prosecution team continued to illegally hold Mr. Williams' property and search these items. As a result, Brian Steele wants Judge Earl Glanville to suppress any statements Young Thug made and any evidence from his phones, hard drives, and computers during the trial, which is slated for January 2023. And the judge today agreed to that. And honestly, it makes total sense. And I feel like this DA's office has been moving really sloppily. Yesterday, Brian Steele actually went and he said that the whole case should be thrown out because of how sloppy they've been moving. And honestly, I feel like this is probably why Young Thug be getting the best lawyers for real, because it's like that was probably a big W. We never know like what exactly was on that phone, but that was all at the time of the whole in speculation right now with the RICO case, especially closer to the time with that rental car situation where allegedly a rental car that was used to kill Big Nut was made in Young Thug's name. So, you know, the fact that this evidence is suppressed is definitely looking a lot better. There was another issue with a warrant that his lawyer basically said was not even a real warrant. It didn't have a stamp of approval from the DA's office or a judge in general, man. So it's going to be interesting to see. People say that state RICOs are different than Fed RICOs, and it definitely makes sense because the feds basically have unlimited resources. The states don't have unlimited resources, but they have some good resources. But obviously Young Thug has resources too, and getting the best people, probably the best attorney that you could get in the Atlanta, Georgia area, man. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I feel like they're just trying to get as much evidence off that they can, and I mean, there's no way that Young Thug's not getting some amount of time. I don't really know if Gunna's going to testify against him, but in that whole situation with the methamphetamine and different drugs and a gun that they found on him with Young Thug, and Gunna basically said it wasn't his, I'm not so sure what's going to happen with that. So that's like automatic on top of a bunch of other charges that might stick. But I think they're just looking for the most favorable conditions and going as hard as they possibly can, trying to get as much evidence removed as possible so then he could be tried and hopefully get the best situation that he can, man. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens. But hey, let me know in the comments what y'all think about this shit. Real stay safe shit, you already know.